This is Fast Lawyer. Today we are going to review Valley in VR using the VRGin mod by Eusth. Valley is a first-person action-adventure platforming game that was released by Blue Isle Studios back on October 24th, 2016. It released on Steam and also on consoles. And I will give a quick review of the game. It's not going to be very detailed. I'm going to focus more on the VR experience. And obviously this game wasn't built for VR. It was made for 2D. However, having said that, this game has lots of elements that are almost tailor-made for VR. I really hope the developers of this game license it to some VR developer who can maybe update the visuals, but mostly just add VR interactions to this first-person action-adventure platforming experience. So even though this game was not made for VR, played in VR, it can be very exhilarating in various moments of the game, but also quite frustrating at other points, just because the VR mod is a generic VR mod for the Unity engine, so it wasn't custom tailor-made for this game, and there are several sections of this game where that really shows. First things first, it did take me about 6 hours to beat the game in VR. However, that had a lot to do with some of the issues that I faced in VR, and I've read online that it takes about 3.5 to 5 hours to beat the game on average. Overall, I do think that Leaf is a very good game. I think it's an underrated gem. I think the gameplay here is very exciting. Like I said, it's perfect for VR, and if you could add like the locomotion method used in Stride VR to this game and update the visuals as well, then you would have the most amazing game in VR. I'm 100% sure on that. Valley does have an interesting story to it. It's based on a fictional world where you have these Leaf exosuits that give you amazing powers to run, jump, and swing at amazing speeds. And there's an interesting aspect that's added to the game where you can either give life and it will take energy away from your Leaf exosuit, or take life to power your exosuit. This game also has a underlying criticism of the proliferation of nuclear weapons. I did like the story overall, but due to the short game's length, it didn't have the kind of depth that this kind of story needed for it to be told properly. The visuals here aren't exactly the best for VR. There's a lot of low resolution textures and a lot of objects in this game that just make the game not really pop in VR, and it's kind of too dark in a lot of places. And I did have all the game's graphical settings set to maximum, but the game just looked outdated, which is a shame because the game's level design is actually great and there's lots of good set pieces here, but with the low textures and the poor lighting, it just looked more like an Xbox 360 game than anything else. On the other hand, I thought the game sounds were pretty good. The voice actors did a great job, and the musical soundtrack here is simply amazing. One of the best soundtracks, especially while you're doing your platforming sections. Just goes along very well, and it just gives you this epic feeling while you're performing your game actions. But the highlight for this game, what makes it very special, is the platforming here. There's just a very smooth gameplay here where you're easily able to go at Mach speeds, swing, jump, wall climb, and it all comes together in these really well designed levels that make you feel like an action superhero. And because you are in first person view and you can even see your arms swinging while you're running, these movements feel amazing in VR. And again, I think with updated visuals and with VR interactions added to this game, and I think the Stride VR locomotion method would be perfect for this game, I think this would be a hit in VR. Maybe these devs will license this game to VR developers to make it a reality, or maybe somebody wants to work on this VRGin mod to custom tailor it to Valley and add those VR interactions to the game. However, until that happens, unfortunately, there are some issues with using the VRGin mod by Eusth, and these are the problems that I faced during my playtime that you should know about. The biggest issue, and you might have noticed this while watching my video gameplay so far, is that there is no reticle viewable in VR. What does that mean? How does that affect gameplay? Well, you can't really target enemies, you really can't target some of your platforming sections, and even picking up items off the ground, your power-ups, your level ups, can be very tricky. Now, through lots of persistence, I was able to get around that issue. You get used to aiming at enemies without being able to really aim at them, kind of just through trial and error. You also get used to using the platforming swing sections without being able to really aim at the hooks. And again, you just get used to that. You probably will fall to the ground and die several times until you get used to the swing mechanic without really being able to aim. Something that did help me as far as picking up items off the ground was that I would just shoot and my arms would raise, and once my arms would raise, I would have a general idea of where to aim to pick up the item off the ground. The other big issue that I faced, and this almost caused me to stop playing this game in VR, is the wall running. While wall running, your camera will face in directions that you don't want, and you'll start going forward in that direction. What I discovered is that you are able to sometimes manipulate the camera by looking in the direction that you want to go, which might seem obvious at first, but while you're playing, it really is counterintuitive because your camera is going all over the place by default. So you just have to steady the camera and slowly look where you want to go, and eventually you'll start moving in that direction. Another issue that I faced is that I did have variable frame rates on my RTX 3080. Keep in mind, I did have graphical settings set all the way to the maximum, and I did not try changing them, but I would get anywhere from 90 frames per second to probably as low as 30 frames per second, usually averaging either 45 frames per second or 60 frames per second. The last issue, and it really wasn't that big of a problem, is that sometimes you'll be displaced from your actual seated position and you're not able to recenter yourself. However, this really didn't happen all that much, and if I got displaced, it would usually just be for a few seconds and it would just be slightly off center. Lastly, there are like some folders, some documents that I believe you're able to pick up in non-VR and something happens, but nothing happened in VR. I wasn't sure why, but it really didn't affect the game at all for me personally. So overall, this game is a mixed bag for VR. There's many breathtaking moments in VR, and I absolutely had a blast playing this in VR when it worked, but there were also many frustrating moments. There were many times where I fell to my death just because you have to swing and connect all these platforming sections together, and it can be very difficult in VR without a way to properly aim. So I definitely don't think this VR mod is for everyone, and if I have to rate the VR experience here, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. The game itself is great, but it's obviously not made for VR, and the VR mod here is not custom tailored to the game. Still, despite all the issues I mentioned, if you're willing to look past those issues, this is one of the best VR gaming experiences if you can handle it. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. This has been my review for Valley in VR using the VRGin mod by Eusth. If you enjoyed my review, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.
All evidence of the sabotage attempt, including Private First Class Edwin Hall's own leaf suit and Miss King's recordings, to be gathered and sent to storage until a proper military tribunal can take place. Until then, all suspects will remain in detention. With the recent increase in production, it should not be long.